Good morning. Take a sip of coffee and try that again. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like you to look at the people on either side of you in the eye, smile, and welcome them to Inside Edge. Beautiful. I can feel the love in here. I honestly, after meeting a lot of you in passing, I'm in the wrong group. I am totally preaching to the choir here. You are all very high vibrating beings, a lot of happiness going around. So this talk is for your friends. Okay? So you'll have something to bring back after today. So I am Dr. Marissa. They do call me the Asian Oprah, which I was actually introduced to her by Michael Bernard Beckwith, who did the foreword to the book and who introduced me to her as the Asian Oprah. And she looked at me, smiled, did not call her lawyers, and looked down at my pants and said, "Nice pants." And it took everything for me not to say, "Do you want them? Like, I'll take them off now," but couldn't remember what was under. So anyway, so I'm so happy to be here. I am the host of 2016 Podcast of the Year Top 10 in Health Award show called Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. And it's a show about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K-words, no Kardashian talk at all, because I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. And so the book is called 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are. So I want to see how happy we are. You look happy. So the first thing I'd like to do is have you close your eyes. Don't worry, I'm not going to do anything to you. The suspicious ones are still looking at me. So just close your eyes. And I want you to take a breath through the nose, in, and release through the mouth. On a scale of 1 to 10 right now, how happy are you? Do you put your hands up? No one's looking at what number you're putting up. You can be honest. And just give me the fingers to tell me how happy you feel right now, okay? So I'm seeing some 10s, some 9s, some 8s, some 7s, some 5s, okay? Open your eyes. So there's a range in there. So it looks like I am in the right group. Now, I don't want you to be happy 100% of the time, right? Because you'll be dead. So we don't want 100%. We want 88% of the time. And the reason for that is twofold. One is life is contrast. We're going to have some things that don't go our way. We're going to have things that make us unhappy or we feel unhappy as a reaction to it. So that's normal. It helps us expand. We won't know if we're happy if we don't know. We're never unhappy. Does that sound good? And 88, it's because 8's a lucky number in Chinese. And I know you thought I was Swedish, but I'm actually Chinese. So 8 is a homonym for good fortune. So 88 is double good fortune. Okay, so I'm going to teach you a little Chinese too. So if you would all stand up. And I teach a Tai Chi Qigong class called Balanced Tai Qigong. So I'm going to teach you a couple of forms during this talk, which is why I don't have a screen, because that'd be like way too many one more things for you to pay attention to. And I like to be looked at, I have to be honest. So take your right hand up in the air. This is usually the fighting hand, right, in Tai Chi. I want you to close your fighting hand to show that you come in peace. And then I want you to bring the peace and hold it with your other hand. So you're making sort of like an A. Got it? Bring it down to your heart chakra and do just a little bow like this and say, xie, xie. It's not S-H-I-T, it's S-H-E-A, and it's Mandarin for thank you, or my namaste, which is Indian, but it's a similar acknowledgement. So look at each other and say, xie, xie. Xie, xie. So we're going to use that. Beautiful. We're going to use that instead of clapping, right? So anytime someone says something or you get an aha, I want you to do a xie, xie. Okay? Got it? xie. Beautiful. See, now you're all Chinese. Before you sit down, I'm going to teach you the opening form because I want you to be centered through the rest of this talk and to learn some common places that people get stuck in unhappiness. Got it? Okay. So I'm going to have you breathe in. So the basic fundamental building block is the breath. So the breath is qi. So breathing in through the nose and release through the mouth. Soft shoulders, soft elbows, soft knees. Another deep breath in. And now release all the stories and the drama that are in your head. And one more deep breath in. Connecting with me through qi, eternal energy. Okay, feel yourself grounding. Feel your feet connected to Mother Nature. Now take your arms up. And now open wide, head tilting back just a bit. And then release the breath as you come forward. Good. Breathe in. This is qi, eternal energy. You're moving. You feel good, right? You're expanding your heart. Now, for contrast, I want you to clench your arms very, very tight. Okay? This is Li. Li is personal power, brute strength in Mandarin. You feel strong, right? In a couple more times, you're going to get tired. This is what happens when we push our way through life. So in the next breath, relax your arms, keep them up, and go back into qi. Do you feel the difference? So this is one way that we hurt our own happiness is when we try to push things, control things, make things happen. Back to center. Beautiful. Good. Xie. All right, have a seat. So it's interesting, the last chapter in the book is out of control into happiness. So a lot of our table talk was centered around happiness is a choice. So that is your free tool for for anyone who isn't a 10 happy or an 8 happy, because what we have surrendered these days is our choice, it seems. How many of you listen to the news first thing in the morning? How many of you feel really good after you listen to the news first thing in the morning? Okay, so it's news media is, my big brother Michael says, it's a weapon of mass distraction. And if you take yourself and look at the news, it's really old because it's the same message over and over. Corruption, scandal, somebody killed somebody or did something bad, or a natural disaster, right? That's your theme, and it's going to just, if it bleeds, it leads. So my first tool is first thing in the morning, instead of listening to the news, I want you to wake up and start eating a gratitude sandwich. So what's a gratitude sandwich? So first thing in the morning, instead of, if you're anything like me, the first thing I think of is what I need to do today, right? Who done me wrong yesterday and how I can get even. What shiitake happened yesterday and what I need to do to fix it, right? That's my natural first thing in the morning head, retired or not retired. I have these fix-its, right? I'm a perfectionist. Anybody else a perfectionist in here? Everybody raise your hands, please. You're here at a breakfast meeting at 6:30 in the morning on a day you could be in bed. Raise your hands. Thank you. That's chapter 7, out of perfectionism into joy. So instead of that habit of thinking of what is wrong with you, what is wrong with me, I want you to start with what is right. So what is right? Dr. Wayne Dyer says 5 things that you're grateful for, first thing in the morning. I say 8, right? 8's a lucky number, and I'm an overachiever. So 8 specific things. You cannot say, I'm grateful for my friends and family. Too general. Okay, so I'm grateful that the coffee in here is so delicious. Okay, what are you grateful for specifically? What are you grateful for specifically? Anybody?
The grapes.
The grapes, yes, the taste of the grapes. That's perfect. Yes?
That I have so many friends in one room that I can be with.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That every time we enter the club, their decorations put beauty in front of us.
That's 5.
that I got to have eggs for breakfast.
6.
Never have time.
Beautiful.
My puppy dog.
Your puppy dog. 7. One more.
You.
Oh, love you too. That's 8. That was fast, right? Took 20 seconds. People who say, I don't have time for this stuff, it took 20 seconds. So you start the day that way, and then you have your day. And at the very last thing when you go to bed, how many of you sit and watch meaningless TV? Okay, be honest, okay? That's why I got rid of my TV, because I would just do this, and it was a waste of my time, and I would always say I don't have time. So I got rid of the TV, I don't pay for cable, and the last thing I do before I go to bed is combat or use my muscle to rid myself of the habit or the natural thing that I do, which used to be, who did me wrong today, right? What bad things happened? What shiitake happened, right? What didn't I fix? What could I have said better? What could I have done better, right? And who I need revenge for tomorrow. So that was my beginning and my end. Sound familiar? Come on, let's be honest, okay? And then I'd wonder why I had a bad day. Then I would wonder why I wasn't happy all day. So I do 8 gratitudes on the bottom end of the day, and I have a sandwich called the gratitude sandwich. And I promise you that if you do this for 21 days in a row, your days will be different, okay? But it's a habit. You got to exercise yourself, okay? 谢谢. Can I count on you to try it? Take that 21-day challenge. If you're overachievers, I have an app called the 21-day fast from complaining. So if you want to really, it's hard to not complain for 21 consecutive days. All right. So now I'm going to ask again. So why did I write a book about happiness? So one is, I love the feeling of being happy. How many of you love that feeling? Like, just breathe into that right now. You feeling pretty happy? Like, doesn't that feel good? So sometimes people ask me, why are you so positive? And for one reason alone, it makes me feel good. And I am here on this earth, on this capital L life, to feel good most of the time. Now that's a little bit, we've kind of been taught you can't feel too good, right? If you feel too good, the other shoe's going to drop, or you shouldn't feel too good, and not everybody feels good. That's BS. That's a belief system that keeps us stuck in a place of unhappiness. It's okay to feel happy. Turn to your neighbor and say, it's okay to feel happy. It's okay to feel happy, isn't it? It's okay to feel happy. All right. So there are 8 chapters of common ways that people are not happy. So I'd like to just poll the room again and take a breath, close your eyes, and raise your hand if you are at any time unhappy because of these following things. And if you don't want to talk about yourself, think about somebody close to you, okay? Just so I get a sense in the room where to focus. So how many of you feel like you're trapped in unhappiness sometimes, or your friends, from loneliness? Raise your hand. Okay? From loss, from losing someone and missing them a lot. This is the season for that. From heartbreak, like I can never love again, I'm afraid because I'll get my heart broken. From hatred, resentment, or for something that was done to you by someone that shouldn't have happened. Okay, great. From shame, something you did that you really wish you hadn't have done or said. Okay. From fear, I want to do it, but I'm afraid, I don't want to, okay. And perfectionism. Okay, you have 99 compliments, 1 insult, and your mind goes to the insult every single time. Okay, and then finally, control. If they would just do this or say this, I would be happy. If they would just stop doing this, I would be happy. Okay, so it looks like perfectionism and control are the winners in this room. So that tells me that for this group, there's a powerful habit in play that most perfectionists have. And that's called Never enough. Okay? So how many of you have a voice in your head that says, you shouldn't have done that, you shouldn't have said that, you really are not all that, everything they said about you was true, everything that you really can't do it, you're not going to be able to do it, you're not worthy, you're not esteemable enough. Anybody have that voice? Okay, I'm going to raise my hand. So I'm one of the majority who had childhood trauma. Okay, so I want you to identify not if you've had childhood trauma. If you or you know someone close to you have had childhood trauma, please raise your hand. Look around. That's the majority. So it's following the statistic. Okay, that is the truth. That is what we are living amongst. So what's interesting is, why does the majority of us think that there's something wrong with us? Why does the majority of us who've had that experience think there's something wrong with us? And that's what sort of got me to thinking, wait a minute, why am I constantly thinking that I am not good enough, that my mother was right, that I am fat, ugly, and clumsy, that I deserve to be abused, I deserve to be hid, okay? And I could spend the rest of my life blaming her for my unhappiness. And I did for decades. And I picked a guy to marry who made me feel the same way, right? That I was not desirable, not lovable, not loving and loved. So that whole cycle, I'm an organizational psychologist, and what got me thinking was I work with super highly successful C-level executives, and guess what happens about midlife opportunity? I call it opportunity instead of crisis. They become unraveled. Right? They were very, very successful, and then they begin having feelings of sadness and overwhelming shame or fear or whatever it is. And so I went, wait a minute, what's going on? There's a pattern in here. So what I found that the majority of us are choosing unhappiness because we're running in a habit and a pattern of default where we look at pain in life as something to suffer from. And if you read the back part of my book, pain in life is mandatory, but suffering from it is optional. So the point of this whole happiness theme is to examine, what am I thinking, doing, saying that is contributing to my own unhappiness? Okay? So I will say that for perfectionists, there's one key character that is helping you be unhappy. It's called the critic, okay? So I have a critic, and I named her Rose. Guess what my mother's name was? If it's not one thing, it's your mother. And there's only 2 times in your life you have no mother issues, when you're born and when you die. So, but I was tired of blaming her for everything that went wrong. Right? So I began to look at my internal critic is way worse than my mother ever was, because my critic has collected all of her stuff and then all of the stuff that follows. Does that follow? Okay. So I name my critic. So I want you to just take a breath and name your critic. Now, it can be your parents' name. It usually is. You're not blaming them, but you're just identifying quickly who that voice is. It's a critical point in capturing or correcting or realigning your happiness, is to figure out who's talking. Okay, what's going on in your head? I know in the old days they used to say, if you hear voices in your head, you're crazy. I'm here to tell you, if you can't figure out who's talking in your head, you'll go crazy. Okay, so the first, usually for perfectionists and control freaks, which we have in the room, that's chapter 7 and 8, that is the most active voice, right? The critic. So name your critic, turn to the person next to you and say, my critic's name is. And if you don't have one, it's okay, just call it critic. Okay, you could just call them critic. It's also usually, got it? Okay, so there's some psychologists who will say, kill the critic. Get that monkey mind, throw them out the 405, run them over. I don't say that because the critic's flip side is the protector. So if you think about it, your critic was actually protecting you when you were young. So, yes. So what I'd like you to do is meet your critic from your balance-centered self. So all of us have a balance-centered self. Okay, that's your name. That's the name that you use, right? So you have a balance-centered self, and then you have a critic. And the critic, for perfectionists who are unhappy, usually is driving your life car, and it's driving it off of a cliff, usually around midlife opportunity. So we're going to make friends with your critic. Take your right hand, put it around your critic, look at your critic and say, hi, I love you so much. Sometimes I don't like you. You've been yelling at me for a long time. You've been telling me, yes, all my life. She's in it. You've been yelling at me my whole life, and you've got to be tired. I think you need a vacation. I'd like you to move over from the driver's seat and sit in the passenger seat and put your seatbelt on. And I got this. I am the balance-centered self now. I got this. You don't have to worry. There are no woolly mammoths to be afraid of. There's no abusers that can abuse us anymore. There's nothing here that's going to hurt us because I got this. Do you hear it? So that part of you, though, has to be strong enough to be able to put the critic in the passenger seat. So how do you become strong enough as a balance-centered self? You start keeping your word. How many promises have you broken to yourself? How many times have you said, I'm going to drink a little more water, or I'm going to take that walk, or I'm not going to eat that donut, or whatever it is? So by keeping our promises to ourselves and beginning that process of self-love, we can begin to strengthen that part of ourselves. Does that make sense? Good. So now you've made friends with your critic. Yes? So now the other character is the brat. And the brat is the one that says, what do you mean I can't have that donut? You're not the boss of me. What do you mean I have to exercise? What do you mean I have to call that person? What do you mean I have to apologize? It's not my fault. It's the principle of the thing. They shouldn't have done that. They knew better. How dare they? That is the brat. So our brat, again, the flip side of our brat is fun and play. So we don't want to kill our brat, but we do want to not have it drive our life car over a cliff. So name your brat. Mine is Agnes. I think I watched Agnes of God, the movie. So just pick a name for your brat. If you usually it's the name that you get called when you're in trouble and when you were young. It involves a middle name. Your full name is your critic. Okay, you got it? All right. Hand over your critic. Sorry, your brat. Hi, Agnes, or your brat. Hi, brat. I love you. Thank you for having fun with everyone. I know you would like to say to people, if I look like you, I'd be miserable too. But you can't always say that. You can't always be mean. You can't always be just joking because you get us in trouble. And sometimes we have to do things that help us. So I want you to sit back here where I can keep an eye on you in the back seat. Put your seatbelt on. Have a fun ride. And I promise we'll go and play. But right now, balance-centered self, we have things to do. Does that make sense? Okay. So stand up again. I'm going to teach you another form. When people drive you crazy. How many of you have people who drive you crazy and that steals from your happiness? That's the control side. And I'll just, can you hear me in through this one?
No.
No? Okay, you have to do that one? Okay.
Hold that.
All right. So taking a breath in through the nose and release. Good. Now I want you to put your weight on your left foot. Okay? Oh, this is not gonna, here we go. So you can see what I'm doing. Okay, weight on your left. Take your right foot, you're gonna step diagonal, and you're gonna take your hands and make a plate, You're going to bring the plate down to about heart chakra area. And you're going to take a breath in. And you're going to bend your knees a little bit. And you're going to polish the table in front of you. There you go. Good. Soft shoulders, soft elbows, soft knees. So we start with a very clean table in life. And then through life experience, we begin to dirty it. It becomes dull. It becomes cluttered with things like irritation, annoyance, sadness, anger, hostility, revenge, fear, anxiety, worry. So what we're doing now is using the power of chi, breathe in and release, and polishing all of that off. Now, I want you to bring this home by thinking of someone who drives you crazy. So if you see me doing this in the middle of the day, you know someone pissed me off. So I want you to put someone or something, just call out something that drives you crazy. Nobody wants to say it. You could do somebody's name, but not if they're here. Okay, how about,
My tiger mom daughter.
A tiger mom daughter, okay? Your daughter, okay? Your daughter, your mother. Don't put your mother on, that's too big for the first time. Drivers on the 405, criticism, next door neighbor. Yeah, we can talk about that after. All right, so just breathe in and repeat after me. Everybody does the very best they can do. If they could do better, they would, but they can't. But I'm not going to hurt myself by trying to make them change. They will have to bump into themselves without my help. And breathing in and release. Beautiful. You may have to do that more than once to make it fix. And now breathe in. And you're going to take your right foot and step all the way to the other side. So we're facing the other direction. And now we're going to polish the other side of the table. Breathe in. And now your hands are going to go counterclockwise. So you're going to go the opposite direction that you were. So we're going to even ourselves out. And as you continue to polish, you look down and see what Buddha calls your original face. One of pure beauty, pure love, joy, harmony, bliss, wonder, kindness, peace, and love. That's who you are at the core of who you are. And breathe in. And release. Back to center. And xie. Thank you for sharing your energy with me. Have a seat. How did that feel? Good. Yeah, balanced Tai Chi Gong is a moving meditation that promotes inner peace, one breath at a time. There's usually 108 forms in traditional Yang School Tai Chi. Too many for Americans. So I took 18 of them, of Tai Chi and Qigong, and melded them together into this practice that takes 28 minutes. Okay? So, how much time do we have? I can talk forever. Yeah, thank you. But they had asked for a little time for question and answer. So are we at that time? Another 20 minutes? Okay, cool. Well, at this point, does anybody have a question that they want to ask in the middle? And then a burning question that you have? No? Oh, yes? Yeah. Uh-oh.
So I'm just questioning, you're making an assumption that all of us have a critic. All of us had an ogre in our childhood that spanked us and disciplined us and so on. What if you just had a blissful childhood, everything was wonderful? Are we missing something?
No. Remember, 70%, so it's the majority. So 3 out of 10, right, have had a normal, so to speak, childhood. However, what's interesting is when I do talks at career days, I do that all the time because I love warping young minds, and I have all of them look at me in the eye and say, "You can do anything your heart and mind desires." At the age of 10, about, I will ask every group, okay, from the age, I do kindergarten all the way up, and from kindergarten till about age 10, they do not understand that critic. I'll say, "Do you have a voice that says you shouldn't do this?" And they'll say, "No, my mom, that's what my mom says that, but I don't have a voice in my head." But around the age of 10, they'll say, "Yes, that voice that says you're not as pretty as her, you're not as smart as him, you're not as good as that person or that, you know." So that critic, that's the internal critic that begins to criticize you and give you this sense of lack and limitation, or you're not as good as. And then depending on how strong of a perfectionist you are, you will glom onto that as a way of motivating yourself to do better. So again, you know, I was a super high achiever because I wanted to prove that voice wrong. But I could never be happy with what I had accomplished because people would say, "Oh, wow, look at you, the youngest to get a PhD." And I'd go, "Thank you very much." And I'd go, "That's so nice," for a fraction of a second. And then the voice in my head would say, "Yeah, but you didn't do this, and you weren't at an Ivy League school, and you didn't do that. And, you know, if they only knew who you were." So I was suffering in my own head in unhappiness because of my internal critic. Now, is the critic a part of me? Yes. But I had to integrate and tell the critic that it is not me. Your critic is not you. You are your balance-centered self, and you've integrated all of these characters. We don't have time, but there's a third character called the sad one. And for those who have been abused, the majority, the sad one is the one that was never allowed to cry. You know, "I'll give you something to cry about. You know, don't cry." So that sad one is the one that goes to therapy. But unfortunately, the sad one, it's become a habit. 1 in 4 Americans are on anti-anxiety and antidepressive medication. 1 in 4. When I went to school, it was 0.02% chronically depressed. How did we go from 0.02 to 25%? And I'm not criticizing. If you're on antidepressants and it works for you, I am happy for you. However, 85% of people taking that medication are still anxious and depressed, and now they have side effects on top of it. The side effects are not side effects, they're main effects. Suicidal thoughts is a main effect. The FDA is having to look at everything where people go from no suicidal thoughts to all suicidal thoughts. So am I at war with pharmaceutical companies? Absolutely not. I'm not that stupid. However, I have a book that is asking you to do an inside-out job to examine your unhappiness and to do those changes that you can do so that you don't have to take something that does have side effects that could be dangerous. So, I'm sorry? Yeah, she actually had her hand up a long time ago.
Kind of a two-pronged question. Is it cultural? Because the advertising in America tells you you're broken, you're not pretty enough, you're not good enough, if you could go to the school, if you wore this cosmetic, blah, 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 blah. And it's such a lie. And is that also true all over the world, or is it more prominent here in the West?
Well, you know, in America, we do it better. So we have a lot of people who are watching the things that tell us we're broken. But there's a great African proverb that says, when there is no enemy within, no enemy outside can hurt us. Because we have something that believes that we're broken, then we believe what we are told in the advertisement. If we were strong enough in our own balance-centered self to say, you know what? I'm not a piece of shiitake. I'm not hot shiitake, I'm just pretty good shiitake. If we had that strong, balanced, centered self, then it wouldn't matter what was shown to us to try to get us to look better. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Perfect.
You encounter just unexpectedly negativity in your day from a person or whatever, how do you recommend dealing with it?
Yeah. I'm serious. Yeah. When I do this, it takes the eternal energy that knows what's best for me, that is always working out for me. And I say to myself, I can't wait to see what good comes out of this. Okay? I lost a $200,000 project from Cedars-Sinai when the HR director called and said your unexecuted project contract is null and void because your sponsoring executive just got fired. I went, "Ah!" And then I went, I can't wait to see what good comes out of this. And then I listened, and the voice said, write. And I said, I don't have time to write. And the voice said, you do now. So I went upstairs. He has got a sense of humor. I call him my UPS man, my universal power source. He delivers every morning when I pray and meditate. So I went and sat down and I wrote the first chapter, Out of Loneliness into Hope, and the last chapter, Out of Control into Happiness. A day after I finished the week of writing, I got an email from Motivational Press that said, are you writing anything? We follow motivational speakers on LinkedIn. And that led to 3 different offers. And now I have a best-selling, award-winning book, 7 bestseller lists, went #1 2 weeks ago, and 4 book medals. So that came out of losing a $200,000 project. The other tool that's in the book called Pearl Makers. So if you think about how pearls are made, they're made because there's an irritating piece of sand in the oyster shell. So even people who are irritating have a role of helping you make pearls, and pearls are beautiful. So when I say I can't wait to see what good comes of this, and my brat says, if I look like you, I'd be miserable too. And then my balanced, centered self goes, you know what? This is my 12%. I can be mad for 16 seconds. I'll stomp my feet. I'll jump up and down. I have a vent partner who I call and just say, I just need to vent. And then once I finish venting, I never talk about that person again. I never talk about that event again. I've loosed it out of my system, and I'm okay because I am the boss of me. Does that answer? Perfect.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I guess my form of perfectionism is that I have all these things that I think I have to do, and it just takes up my whole days.
Yeah.
And it just lists. But also, I put in an hour of exercise every day, and by the end of the day, it's like, oh my God, I have to switch this to tomorrow.
Exactly. So how many of you say to yourself, I am my own worst critic? Nobody's harder on me than me, right? Right? Stop it! It's stupid. It's stupid. Really, it's stupid. You have to be your biggest fan. Do you want the rest of your life to feel in that space of I'm not good enough? And you're the only one doing it, right? I used to say, I get it. I used to say, if I could just feel about myself half as good as people feel about me, I'd be okay. But guess what? I can. But I have to do that here. So with the gratitude, your challenge, if you choose to accept it, is in your gratitudes, it's not about things outside of you. It's about you. You have to begin to strengthen the beautiful part of you. You are one of a kind, amazing. 7.3 billion people on this planet, every single one different, like the grains of sand, like the leaves on the trees, like the drops of water in the ocean. We are all amazingly unique. Every single one of us have unique gifts, talents, and abilities to share, not because we're doing good necessarily, because it makes us feel good. Don't you feel good when you know you're making a difference? Yes, and you do make a difference in a way that only you can make a difference. You don't have to have people think like you, look like you. You don't have to look like them, think like them, talk like them. You are beautiful in and of yourself. So that's the work that I love to do and I get to do with my coaching clients, because this is, I have 8,888 plus or minus 2,000, so you don't figure out how old I am because I'm ageless, but I have that many days left to live on the planet. There's nothing like this life. I don't know what's after. I don't know where we came from. I do know this is here. I know the present is a present because it's a gift, and you want to open it. Yes? Good. I think that looks like a good place to end because you gave me the 2 minute, 1 minute. That's time. But wait. I'm going to end with one of the tools in the book also is called the Serenity Prayer. And for those of you who are not inclined to the G-bomb God, you can just substitute life. But if you would take a breath and close your eyes. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Today may I do thy loving will always. Amen. 谢谢. Please come back and see me. Go on YouTube, subscribe. I've got interviews with Halle Berry, John Travolta, Quincy Jones. Go to Dr. Marissa on Facebook. Give me the finger, a thumbs up, and stay in touch. Thank you so much.